Before we get into today's video, I just want to thank all of the teachers that participated in today's YouTube collaboration. Check their videos out down in the description below and see what books they're reading aloud to their kids. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Every week coming out with new videos about the latest and greatest in children's literature and some tips for getting kids excited about reading and writing. All right, I hope you like today's video. What's up? Today we're going to talk about my 5 favorite read alouds. You ready? Let's go. Every day I read aloud to my students. Every single day we read at least one picture book. So narrowing it down to my 5 favorite books to read aloud was just about impossible, but I did it. These are 5. I left many of my favorites out. I noticed that all 5 are fiction, so I probably should do a video at some point of my top 5 favorite nonfiction read alouds. We're going to get started. The first one is The Story of Fish and Snail. It's by Deborah Freedman. I begin almost every school year reading this book aloud. I love the story. I love fish. I love Snail. Snail is so nervous, and Fish is adventurous, and they're best friends. And Snail just wants to just kind of do the same thing and keep, if it's not broke, why fix it? But Fish wants to try new things and explore the world, and Snail's really nervous and not sure he wants to do that. And I think it's just a great way to kick off the school year. I think it's a great way for kids to know, like, sometimes you need to try new things and sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone. All right, I think my students are coming, so I'll be back in a little bit with book number 2.
Look around, what do you see? Books, books. Are you ready to read? Gather round, what do you hear? Books, books. Open up your ears. I'll read to you, you'll sing to me. Books.
The second book that I want to talk about today is Fly Away Home. It is written by Eve Bunting. It is illustrated by Ronald Himmler. It was published in 1991, so it's a little bit older of a picture book, but I absolutely love the discussions that I have with my students around this book. It's about a boy and his father who live in an airport, and they kind of drift around and just try to not get caught. They just don't have the money to have a place, and for a lot of students, I think this book really just brings them to a place that they haven't really been before, and they think about, wow, like, how lucky am I to have the life that I am? Even if things might not seem great, I'm not living in an airport, and I'm not trying to return carts for quarters so that I can have something to eat. It's a wonderful book. I've read it for years and years and years. The symbolism that you can have discussions around and the different topics that this book brings to light and the issues, real issues that are happening in our world today, now as much as ever, I think, come across in Fly Away Home. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. Eve Bunting is a treasure for teachers and students. Her books are magnificent. There's so many wonderful books that she has written, and this is my favorite. So the kids are at lunch, and it's 50 degrees outside. It's January in Michigan, and it is 50 degrees outside, so I'm going to try to squeeze in a 3-mile run. But before I do, I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite books to read aloud. This will be number 3 on the list. I Want My Hat Back by John Klassen. Absolutely one of the greatest, one of the most funny, one of the most, the ending in that book is absolutely mind-blowing to kids. They love it. I've been reading it aloud since it came out. So many discussions. Kids never, ever, ever forget the ending of I Want My Hat Back. If you have not read that book aloud, you must. It will be a favorite read aloud for kids for the rest of eternity. It's that good. All right, let's go run.
Books, everybody find a seat. I'll read to you'll sing to me. We'll start in 1.
Just finished a 3.25-mile lunch run, win the day. It was a beautiful run. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. It's 50 degrees, but we still have these like snow piles from where they shovel. It's kind of gross. Beekle, The Adventures of Beekle, An Unimaginary Friend by Dan Santat. This book is special. I have read it to every kid that I have taught since it came out, and I will continue to read it for the rest of my teaching career. I love this book. Kids love this book. It won favorite read aloud the year it came out in my classroom. That meant at the end of the year, all the kids got to sign it, and we get to keep it in our classroom library with their signatures in it as long as the book doesn't fall apart. I just think this book is special. I think that kids really see themselves in it. I think kids can really relate to trying to find your place in the world, trying to find where you fit in, and trying to just feel special and loved. It's a great book. If you haven't read The Adventures of Beekle and An Imaginary Friend, you have to read it immediately, and then you have to read it to children, and then you have to gift it to children because it's so good. It's so good. All right, let's get back to class. Let's try to eat some lunch and then finish the day strong. The last book that I want to talk about is The Other Side by Jacqueline, Woodson, and E.B. Lewis. If you're a teacher and you haven't read this book, you really, really need to check it out. It is just one of the best books that I've ever read that helps kids deal with and understand a little bit better the racial divide in this country and how things still are today, unfortunately. And in a time where people are talking about building things to keep us apart, this book just helps us to think about how we can come together. I think it's one of the most important books ever written for kids. It is an amazing book to read and discuss with children. It is unforgettable. It is important. It is perfect. Congratulations to Jacqueline Woodson, who was just named the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. I can't think of a better person to travel around the country the next 2 years talking to kids about books and stories. I fell in love with reading, sitting in a 4th grade classroom as a student, listening to my teacher read aloud Hatchet. After school, I would go into the woods and I had my own hatchet, and I would pretend that I was Brian and that I was lost in the wilderness. I would hunt, never caught anything. I would build shelters. I would pretend that I was in that book. We want those experiences for our kids. That is what is going to get them to fall in love with reading. That is what is going to be the catalyst to get them to become great readers. They don't need your accelerated reader test. They don't need a basal reader. They don't need your frickin' teacher pay teacher worksheet. What the kids need, what they need, what our country needs is for kids to be flooded with stories. And one of the best ways to get a lot of great stories in front of kids is by reading to them aloud. I cannot wait to hear what books you're going to read aloud to your students, what books you are reading aloud to your students. Please let me know in the comments below. With enough stories, we can make this world a better place. Thank you so much for watching. Happy reading.